Excellencies, distinguished scholars, dear colleagues and co-panelists, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor for me to address you today. It is an honor for me to address you today at this third international conference devoted to the cultural heritage and the right of return. I'm grateful to the Western Azerbaijan community for convening us in Baku to advance a topic that is not only of historical significance, but of urgent contemporary relevance. Let me first of all extend my sincere thanks to Chairman Dr. Aziz Alakbarov and everyone involved in bringing us together here today. Our panel focuses on the mobilization of international cooperation, and I would like to approach the theme from the perspective of a European civil society organization engaged in strengthening understanding and dialogue between Germany and Azerbaijan since more than 2 decades. The German-Azerbaijani Forum has worked for many years to bring academic, cultural, and economic stakeholders together into dialogue. From this vantage point, I would like to outline why international cooperation is indispensable, what instruments are available, and how we can reinforce global support for the restoration of cultural heritage as a core component of the right to return. First, cultural heritage and the right of return, a universal principle with a European resonance. The right of return is not a regional or situational principle. It is a universal human right embedded in international law. It encompasses not only the physical return to one's native land, but also the restoration of identity, dignity, and cultural continuity. From a European perspective, this is immediately recognizable. Europe's modern political order was shaped by massive population displacements throughout the 20th century, after the First World War, after the Second World War, and after the collapse of communism. These movements profoundly disrupted cultural landscapes and collective memory. In every case, sustainable peace required 2 things. First, recognition of the historical truth, and second, protection and restoration of cultural heritage as a base for reconciliation. The experience of Azerbaijanis that has been displaced from Armenia after decades of forced expulsions and systematic erasure of cultural markers is therefore not an abstract case for Europe. It is a situation that recalls the major historical traumas of our own continent. And Europe's response should be guided by the same principles that have shaped our own reconciliation processes. Second, the cultural dimension. Heritage as a precondition for justice and reconciliation. As the materials of this conference document, the destruction of Azerbaijani cultural heritage in present-day Armenia, mosques, shrines, cemeteries, manuscript, historic districts, and much more, was not incidental. It was systematic and deliberate, aiming to uproot cultural memory itself. International research in heritage studies, anthropology, and conflict resolution show that such destruction is never merely symbolic. Cultural heritage forms the infrastructure of identity. When it is erased, communities do not simply lose historical artifacts, they lose continuity, belonging, and spatial anchors of family and collective memory. Therefore, safeguarding cultural heritage must not only be understood as a secondary task following a political settlement. It is a precondition for any return to be dignified, complete, and sustainable. This conference emphasis on physical and intangible heritage, on documentation, on moral foundations, and on legal as well as international frameworks is exactly the right approach. Third, why international cooperation is indispensable. International cooperation is crucial for 3 reasons. First, because cultural heritage protection is anchored in global norms. UNESCO conventions, the Hague Convention for the Protection of Cultural Property, and the ICSO and OSCE frameworks all require states, international organizations to prevent destruction, assist in restoration, and promote cross-border heritage cooperation. Second, because the credibility of return processes depends on international transparency. Independent research, documentation, and expert assessments help establish facts, rebuild misinformation, and facilitate a clear understanding of what must be restored. In this regard, partnerships with universities, research institutes, and cultural foundations in Europe, the Middle East, and across the Turkic world are indispensable for Azerbaijan. Third, because reconciliation requires a wider community of trust. When external partners engage constructively, they help create a climate of confidence, both by supporting technical cooperation and by signaling that the international community recognizes the legitimacy of the right to return. Fourth, the role of Germany and European institutions. In Germany, the protection of cultural heritage and the rights of displaced persons are deeply rooted in our historical consensuousness. Our federal institutions, academic bodies, museums, cultural organizations have extensive experience in documentation, preservation, digital archiving, and memory work. These resources can and should be mobilized. I would like to emphasize several avenues of cooperation. Academic and scientific partnerships. German universities have world-class departments in archaeology, heritage studies, architecture, and conservation science. Joint research projects, particularly those focused on digital reconstruction, forensic documentation of destroyed sites, and the study of intangible heritage, would significantly enrich the global understanding of Azerbaijani cultural history in Western Azerbaijan. Museum and archival cooperation. German museums have established workflows for provenance research, restitution debates, and preservation of fragile artifacts. The integration of Azerbaijani experts into such networks could support knowledge transfer for restoration, interventory work, and public education. Parliamentary and civil society engagement. In Germany, civil society actors and parliamentary friendship groups can play a crucial role in raising awareness, hosting exhibitions, publishing research, and creating platforms for dialogue. These instruments strengthen public understanding and counteract the narrative vacuum that often surrounds conflicts. Support of the German Azerbaijani Forum. As an established institution committed to dialogue across politics, academia, and the business community, we are prepared to support the Western Azerbaijani community in the following ways. By organizing conferences such as the one today, roundtables and lectures both in Germany and Azerbaijan, publishing bilingual research reports on cultural heritage issues, facilitating mobility programs and expert exchanges, promoting cooperation with German cultural and scientific institutions, raising awareness among economic stakeholders about the importance of heritage restoration for long-term social stability. We see cultural heritage not as a static memory, but as a dynamic foundation for cooperation, creative industries, and community development.
Last one, please.
Leveraging the capacities of international organizations. The concept note rightly highlighted the ISCO, OIC, and other international institutions as key partners, and mobilizing global support, which should also strengthen this axis. And let me summarize the last point. Normative clarity. Restoring rights is not revisionism, it is justice. One of the key misunderstandings in some international debates is the false perception of the right of return with territorial revisionism. This is a conceptual error. The right of return, as emphasized by this conference, is a human right, territorially and culturally grounded and fully compatible with international law and the principle of peaceful coexistence. Allow me to conclude with a simple but powerful observation. The right of return is not merely about going back, it is about being able to belong again. Belonging is anchored in memory. Memory is anchored in heritage, and heritage can only be safeguarded through knowledge, understanding, cooperation, and international solidarity. The German Azerbaijani Forum, as I said, stands ready to work with the Western Azerbaijani community and with international partners to promote this agenda. We believe that throughout sustained academic and international cultural and diplomatic cooperation, we can help to secure the foundation for a dignified return and a lasting peace in the South Caucasus and beyond. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Shachsan.